Hello everybody, thank you for joining Mold3D in our tutorial series. This week we've got a pretty cool tutorial for you. It's modeling a Pokemon ball in Modo using Mesh Fusion. So we'll jump right to it. To do this tutorial, you're going to need the latest version of Modo, 7.01, and we're also going to be using Mesh Fusion as well. Let's jump over and create a sphere. So make sure we have a mesh item active. If you don't have a mesh item, go ahead and hit the N key and that'll make a new mesh. And then we're going to click on the basic tab here and then click the sphere. For me, I already had these default settings put in, but basically we want to have it at 0 and about 76 millimeters. And then we're going to do 36 by 36 and go ahead and hit apply, and that's going to throw a sphere in for us right here. So the next thing we want to do is chop this sphere in half, because we don't want to, we can just work with one at a time. It's a little easier that way. So to do that, let's jump over. If you hit Control Space, that's like Maya's marking menu system for cameras. You can go to our front view, and then let's go ahead and hit the 3 key for polygons. Now Modo has 3 selection modes. You have a drag select, which will raycast the selection. And so I'll show you that I'm only selecting the front half of these polygons. If you middle mouse select, it'll actually drag through everything. So you can see I grabbed the whole shebang. And then lastly, the right clicks is like a paint select tool. And double click on a face will select everything in that area. So for us, we want to just work on the top half. So we're going to middle mouse select just above that edge and delete the bottom half here. And because a Pokemon ball actually has a seam in the center, we're going to delete this first row of polygons. And that's going to give us our half here. So now that we have that deleted, let's jump back over to our perspective mode. And with our polygon selected, just double click on our mesh right here, and we're going to add thickness now. So we're going to use under the basic, there's a shortcut to the thicken tool here. That's also in the polygon as well, but you can access it from the basic tab. So we have that selected. Go ahead and hit thicken. I have mine set to 4 millimeter, scale at 90%, and leave everything else on. I think thicken was on, sharp is off, and hit apply. And that's going to push that inwards. Now the key to this is that you want to remember that if you're going to thicken inwards by having a negative scale or actually subtractive scale, we're going to have to flip our normals. So to do that, go ahead and hit space to drop that tool, and then we're still in our polygon select. So let's double click the whole thing and hit the F key. It's going to flip our polys, space to drop, and now we have a normal facing top half of our Pokemon ball. The next thing you want to do is go to your items and hit tab. So let's turn off sub D. Tab will turn sub D on and off. So we're going to have to eventually tighten up this edge loop here so it doesn't round out so much, but we're going to do that after we create our inner shell. One thing we want to keep in mind that this is going to 3D print, so everything we do is for 3D printing oriented in terms of the modeling. So let's go ahead and name this model real fast and go to mesh. Click on the mesh up here and just name this top shell. It's cool. And let's go ahead and hit N for a new mesh item. So what we're going to do now is create another inner shell. So go ahead and hit the sphere. Go ahead and keep those default settings and complete that tool. Hit apply. Now we can take this sphere and scale it inwards until we reach the inner size of the sphere. Actually, I take that back. We want to scale this in about halfway to, so this is the inner edge and this is the outer edge. We want to be somewhere right in the middle. So right around there is good. Doesn't have to be exact. So now we have kind of a overlapping sphere here, and that's okay, because what we're going to do is we're going to cut this out in a minute. So, and it looks like I made 2 spheres in this one mesh item, so let's undo that. Alright, so we deleted the extra sphere. All I did is double click one of the faces and it grew to the whole object and we removed it. So now we only have one. So, alright, so let's turn the sub D off on there, and we're still good in terms of the thickness. Okay, cool. So if we take a look at what a Pokemon ball looks like, we can see that there's a nice tight edge. The thickness is not too great. And then we're going to also have this circular cutout around the button. So we want to sort of pre-plan this inner black stripe to be taller than the circle, but not too tall where it's a bunch of wasted material up in here. So let's go ahead and take a look at our model again, and let's go to our front view, and let's just, for the heck of it, make a primitive. And then if you hit Control, you're gonna just get a default cylinder, and we can use this as like a template. So let's get 90 and scale this down, just to give us something to work with, just so we know how big of a hole we're going to be cutting in this later. We're going to use Mesh Fusion to cut that hole out. So that looks pretty good. So if we assume that we're going to go, let's say we're going to go 2 polygons up. So we want to make sure that this one goes at least maybe 4. So maybe about this edge loop up here is when we want to delete. So what we can do is go to your edge mode, and we can turn on symmetry on the Y. So if you select that one, you get the top one. So what we can do is select there. Nope, let's go one more. That's good. And if you hit the Shift up key, that's going to grow it. And then if you hit the Control, or sorry, the Alt 3, that's going to convert those edges to faces. And yeah, we can delete those. Delete. And then if you double click on that island of faces there, you can delete those too, and it's going to delete up there. So now we're left with this middle section for our Pokemon ball. So that's going to be the part where this black area is with the button on it. And then, so we're going to do the same thing with this one. Is let's go ahead and add thickness. So double click on that and hit thicken and hit apply. And then that's cool. And then let's go ahead and go to object mode, hit F to flip those normals again. You have to be in face mode. Flip. And then, yeah. So you can see that we have like an angle here. That actually will be to our disadvantage when printing. So let's go ahead and straighten that up. So let's go to 2, their edges. Now we're working with symmetry now, so that's pretty cool. And if we go to our front view, now because it's the inner side, it doesn't matter as much. But we want to just pull that down flat, and then we can also scale it inwards to try to match the angle of all the other edges. So that looks pretty good. And if we wanted to be super picky, we can turn on snapping. And let's see, snap, edge, and then now this should snap to our edge right there. There you go. So turn off snapping, and now we know that this edge is perfectly flat or straight. So when this 3D prints, it's going to sit right on the bed and go right up the object. It'd be no problem. All right, let's go back into shaded mode. And 5, drop all tools, and let's turn on the top shell. Alright, now here's the cool part. What we want to do is we want to delete, or actually, yeah, we're going to want to push in these faces on the inner part to be on the outside of the inner shell all the way up until the top. and then we wanted to shoot out and create a little edge for us. This is going to make it so you can actually take this thing apart later. So the easiest way to do that is, first of all, we'll go to this model, and let's go back into shaded mode and make sure we have an edge here to work with. So there's no edge right there. Okay, so let's go to edge here and go to add loop, and let's go right above it. Now you want to give these a little bit of extra room to breathe, so that's pretty good. Hit space, and we want to actually insert another edge right next to this, right on top, space, and that's our edge that's going to be scaled to the outer area. So we go to wireframe and then scale this outward. So that's pretty good. And then go back to shaded. So now you see, now we have a little gap here. And then we probably pull this down just a little bit. Alright, so now that we've got that done, let's go ahead and hide our inner mesh here. And we're going to have to do the same thing to this one here. So turn that back on, go to our scale, and scale that right out to there. Alright, that's good. And turn this off. So same thing with all of these, and you can go like that. And since these are all proportionally the same, you should be able to use the limiting one on the middle. Use this axis to the ZX axis to scale these outward. And then let's turn that back on and go to wireframe. Right. No, almost. Right, it looks like 98, 98, no, 99, 99, no, 98.2, 98.2. Yeah, that's pretty good. Same thing here. Alrighty. Cool. That's pretty good. Alright. Let's go to shaded mode. Alright, so now we have this lip where these two models will sit nicely on top of each other. So turn that off, and then now we're going to go and add in our edge tightener. So drop that edge, and let's see, add loop here, and let's just zoom in to the edge here and go ahead and start inserting these. So this Pokemon ball is a pretty tight bevel on the edges here, so the trick is, and this is as far as I know, I don't know if there's a better way, but you insert in your tool. So go to add loop, and hit spacebar, and then Control R will re-grab the last tool. It's kind of like the G key, but you have to hit spacebar every single time. It's kind of annoying, but I guess it's better than clicking that button over and over again. So Control R space, Control R space, and now we have a tight bevel and a shell. So, alright, so that's that. So let's go to our items. So we have this thing, and somehow I managed to rename this thing. So this is our top shell, And this is our inner. So this is our mid. And then that's our templated cutter. So we don't need that one anymore. So let's delete. Alright, let's go ahead and just duplicate this one as well. So Control D, and then mirror this one, negative 100%, and then freeze all. So, and then now we have a top and bottom, and then we probably want to rename that top shell 2 to bot shell 2. Alright, so now let's jump into the Mesh Fusion part. I'm going to save this first. Save scene. Alrighty. So to get into the Mesh Fusion, we want to first of all change our layout. Now if you've been working in the modeling layout, you're not going to have these tabs on top. And the way to get that is go to Layout and go to Layouts and then go to Tabbed Fusion right here, Tabbed Fusion. So it's gonna give you all your modeling tabs that you can jump between, and then we can go to Fusion Model here. And by default, if you don't have all these default Fusion objects, they are in your directory here. So if you go to Assets, so you go to Fusion Assets on the bottom, Fusion Meshes, and then Cubics, and then you're gonna have all your primitives too. And then we're going to jump in and do the easy stuff with Mesh Fusion. So, because doing those little extrudes and bevels are the easy thing to do with traditional modeling, but the next part is the hard stuff. So, to get you up and running, now that we're in the Fusion model, we're going to just use the viewport Fusion schematic and not the complex node graph version of it. We'll probably do another tutorial about that one. That one's more like a nuke tree, where this one here is a little bit more straightforward, and it will get us to the same result a little bit faster. So, all right. So what we want to do is grab these two. All right. So we got those two meshes. Let's go ahead and draw in a, we want one of these primitives here. It's the cylinder. There you go. So double click on the cylinder and you're going to get a gigantic cylinder. So we're going to go ahead and scale this down here. And hit the A key, and that's going to zoom in. And so then let's rotate that. And I'm going to just type in 90 down the Z and then scale it up a little bit. And what we want to do is we want to see which is the right one. One of these changes our diameter. There you go, that one. Oop, don't go negative. Alright, so let's change this down to be the size. So we remember earlier we chose about 2 rows up is our hole size. So that's going to be our cutter for this part here where we cut around there. So let's do it. The easiest part is, so we're going to grab this one. Make sure you're in items mode, and then you're going to shift select the new Q cylinder that we have. So they're both selected, and then go to New Fusion, and then subtract others from first selected, and hit that, and bam, we got ourselves a cut open sphere. And we're gonna have a little bit of artifacts, and we're gonna fix those later. But first we want to get this bottom half in there too. So if you select this one and you middle mouse drag that onto the green arrow here where the schematic is, that's going to add that. And now this cylinder is affecting both of these objects, and now we have that. So if for any reason we weren't satisfied with the size of this hole, that's no problem. We can always just go and scale it up a little bit. Just careful, as you work with more topology, it gets it gets slower. So, and if you're using just Fusion items, you get a lot more efficiency out of it than you do using these topology, like a traditional modeling polygons. So that's a pretty good size. I think that's fairly proportional. Let's stick with that. So if you ever want to see what your model's looking like, what you can do is turn off Mesh Viz, and then cool. And that should be good. And let's fuse these all together. So let's turn on visibility of everything again. And what we want to do is, how do I see that one? We can select this one and then select that one. And I think we can shift select that one. So select all three of these and then go to New Fusion and then just say Union of Meshes. You can see that, boom, we have our model here. So now we have two fusion networks right on top of each other. What we're going to do is hit the W key and actually hit the Q key first and click on that green one. Make sure you're in items mode. Click on the green one and this box is going to pop up and hit the move tree. And then we're going to just slide this one up so we can see both networks. So our networks are pretty complete now. Move these things away as well. There you go, move those away. Alright, cool. And again, it automatically turns on wireframe all the time, so you're gonna have to keep toggling that off. So what we're seeing now is, let's fix one at a time. So the first thing is let's make sure that this one fuses with these ones. Okay, so I think our resolution for this sphere might be okay, and these ones might be low. So the button 1 resolution and the button 2. Let's go ahead and adjust button 1 first. So click on button 1 in items mode and go to user channels. And then turn on Fusion sub Ds and then change it to 3. And that looks a little better. Let's go to 4. And let's go to the little guy, the button 2, and change that to 4. And boom. So now we have a complete fusion. You can see our nice transition from all these items going from this surface right into that surface. So if we want, we can adjust this curvature with those, they call them strips. And we'll do that at the end here. So let's finish this thing. So let's go and turn on our cutter outer, and then we're gonna have to increase these sub-Ds as well. So let's go ahead and change this to 4. And then that's a little better, maybe 5. All right, that looks pretty clean. Excellent. So hide that, and so this is our ball. All right, it's exciting. We did the easy modeling in Modo, and then we used Mesh Fusion to do the hard part, would be making a nice transition from these ones to these ones. So the next thing we want to do is fix the strips, the bevels of the surfaces. So all right, there you go. So let's do the strip. So you can see that this one highlights and the bottom one doesn't. That's because I think we need to go and say, click on Fusion item and say strip options, update strips. And then click on Fusion item 2, and then update strips. And we should have strips on top and bottom selectable. So it's kind of up to us, but we want this one. So if you just click, now sometimes when you click, you'll get this box right away. Sometimes you get a menu, and then you have to open up this by itself. So it's kind of random, but we want to do both of these. There you go. So now we're doing these two strips at the same time. And this is that other menu. So if you go to the channel hall, now we can adjust both of these at the same time. And gotta be careful. I think I just changed it. All right, so we want to make these a little tighter. So I'm just gonna change it to 50. And let's see, that looks pretty good. Doesn't need to be super tight, but So the scale width is essentially how big of a transition it's going to be. The scale profile is how flat. So the flatter on the left or the more round on the right. So somewhere in the middle is fine. And then the smoothing is, well, it just tries to figure out the tangency of the from going from one to the other. So scale width, and you can see we're missing some faces here. We'll fix that by upping the resolution later. So 45%, that's pretty good. And that did it all the way around, so we don't have to worry about anything else. So hit space, drop that tool, and let's go ahead and do the sphere as well. Just tighten these up just a little bit. So I'm gonna click those, and now we shift clicked both of these together, and we can just make them a little bit tighter. See, when we made them tighter, we lost our polygon, and that's due to resolution. So that's fine. I'm going to leave it there, and then I'm going to go and select our mid here. Go to this channel, and then let's change this to 3 and see if that helps us. Yeah, that's getting better. 5. Nope. 1. Nope. Alright, so I think it's just a matter of this guy still. 1, 2, sorry. So this is the tricky part, honestly. It's getting all of these to play nice. Alright, so for some reason going down in resolution helped us. So this is set to 3, this is set to 3 and the 3. So you see, as we get tighter, alright, that's pretty good. And we'll do this one. So it could have just been a display issue and maybe not anything wrong with our sub D. So that's one of those bugs I'm talking about. Alright, so now we got our model here, and let's go ahead and zoom in to our corners, and that's usually due to the resolution of our either our cutters or our object being cut. So let's see if going to 6 helps us. Yeah, looks like it went away, and yeah, looks pretty good. So we went to 6 on this big one. Okay, so we're pretty much done here. Let's finish this project up. We want to get these objects ready for 3D print, so we're going to have to part these out into separate objects. So we need to convert these fusion items to meshes, basically. So if you select fusion item, this one, and go to the fusion tab here, you will see that if you scroll down here, and just tab up these modeling utilities and display utilities, you don't need those. So mesh mode, you want to change this from draft to airtight final, and you're going to see your model turn into wireframe once again. And then what we're going to do is save first. Save that. Alright, now we're going to go to dupe and convert to mesh. And so we're just going to let it go, and it's going to convert everything over to a new mesh. So that's an actual polygon now with the final topology. And let's hide that. And then so it also hit our fusion item for us. So we're going to go and do the center one now. Say change it from draft to airtight final. Say dupe and convert to mesh, and then hit OK. So now we have these two. And so this is our scene that, you know, I'm going to keep this scene as the one with the fusion items in there. And then I'm going to make a new scene that has no fusion stuff. So what we're going to do is jump back to this scene here and click the fusion mesh, and control click that one, hit Control C. Oh, sorry, Control C. Yeah, screw it. You can just drag and drop these. So just drag them into your untitled move. And you can say shader. No, we don't want any of that. So just drag these over, and now this scene here has our final polygons. And we're pretty much good to go. Now, I will say that we can assign some. We want to split these up into three objects. So that's the top one here. So if you right-click on your mesh item and say, where are you at? Unmerge mesh. So we're going to get two. So we're going to get top and bottom. And so top, bottom, and middle. So just going to name these again. Top, shell, and bot, shell, and middle, shell. All right. And why not? Let's assign some colors to these things. So, okay, I fast forwarded a bit and I added some shaders and HDRI map to our scene to showcase the model in a little bit better light. Hopefully your model looks as good or better than this. And if you want to look at our scene files, they're in the description below and also on our blog post on our website. Thank you again for joining us for this Multi-D tutorial. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to all necessary channels. We have the YouTube channel you can subscribe to. You have our newsletter on our website you can go to. And be sure to join us on Facebook and Twitter if you use those social networks as well. And lastly, be sure to check back with us in a couple weeks. We'll have the 3D printed version of this Pokemon ball up. And thank you again, and we'll see you next time.